Hello, and welcome to the Tough Crowd for Thursday, March 19th. We are back, hoping to be back more often. I'm Mama J, J-Fi, depending on who you ask. So, several things on the docket today. First of all, I had a horrible experience at my health club today. So, that's number one on our agenda. I decided to sign up for Dan's Jam. That's Dance with a Z Jam class. I love to dance. I'm not great at it. And I thought, I've seen these people on Instagram. They look great. They're giving women who can't dance some tips, what to do with your arms, how to add some movements. And they're great dancers and they're inspiring. And I saw this new class, Dan's Jam. Sounds great. With a guy named Zion, and he was super friendly, bubbly, bouncy, and I thought, I'm just going to try it. And I thought this would be a new thing for me. And it says it's for me. Is it for you if you have two left feet? Or the class description says it's for you. Do you have two left feet? We can help you. No dance experience required. No problem. Everyone can enjoy a fun way to get your heart rate up and burn calories. You'll shake and groove with easy to follow choreography to an epic playlist of songs. Leave every class feeling empowered, confident, and energized. So, spoiler alert, I did not leave the class feeling confident, empowered, or energized. I felt completely defeated. I went in there and first of all, I think they brought the Mean Girls bus from the retirement home there because all of these women were dressed similarly in these sort of like athletic skirts, but made for dancing, I guess. And then they have particular spots. So when you sign up, you pick a spot. I had spot number 5. That's what I chose. It was over on the right, out of the way. They have stickers on the floor that tell you where to stand. Well, when I came in, there was somebody in the number 5 spot. So I'm not going to ruffle any feathers. I just went to the back. And then as soon as we get in there, another guy comes in and he said, I've never done this before. I'm very nervous. The instructors convinced me to do it. So he was standing on spot 27. The instructor comes in, Zion, says, welcome everybody, seems very bubbly, great. This is going to be really fun. And we're such a welcoming group. Obviously, a lot of these women are in this class with him frequently. I think he has the class once or twice a week. And so they seem to know each other fine. I'm fine with that. Like they've been doing it. They're probably way better than I am at it. But it's definitely an older crowd. So I feel like, okay, I can probably keep up with them. Well, this guy is in class 2 minutes and a woman comes in and says, you're in my spot. You're in spot 27. Well, first of all, you came in late, so you get what spots left. And there were plenty of other spots. But the guy moves over. So he's already slightly defeated. The music starts, and this guy is, if Ricky Martin and Jennifer Lopez had a baby, it would be this guy because he starts dancing to this salsa type music that is such a fast beat, and his moves are literally something more experienced than you're going to see. If Jennifer Lopez and Ricky Martin had a baby, it would be Zion. He comes in bubbly, full of energy, looks just like the instructor you would picture would be doing this class. It would be as if you were dropped into the Dancing with the Stars finale and they said you're going to do a salsa with Derek Huff because he was moving. He literally was jumping up and doing splits in the air, kicking his legs back. And the moves were so fast, no cues, nothing to say 1, 2 to the left, 1, 2 to the right. And all of the music was like, as I said, salsa. So it was really not what kind of music I would like to listen to, but it's not my class. So he can play whatever kind of music he wants, but it was impossible to keep up with. I literally was laughing at myself the entire time. The gentleman next to me left within 10 minutes, I think completely defeated, and I understand his feeling, but I was not going to give anybody the satisfaction of leaving early. At the end, Zion says, well, thank you for coming to my class. All the new people, you did great. And I I know he wasn't talking to me because there's no way that I was doing great. Every time he spun around, he would literally spin around in a place like a ballerina, and a salsa move to the left, a salsa move to the right. Then he'd go forward, he'd go backwards. I was always going the wrong way. So needless to say, I'm not going back to his class. I wanted to say thank you for the class, Zion, but I will never see you again. He said, oh, I'm having a class tonight. So I really should have worn my gold hat here that I really wanted to wear. This is what I wore for Bobby and Emma's welcome party at our house for our family. Sue, Bobby's mom, and I did a rap song for Emma and Bobby for their pre-wedding party, and it was a hit, I have to say. And I think I should have worn this hat because at least I would have had fun with this fun hat on. I might wear it more often, but the girls told me I couldn't wear it today. So I'm still in search of a hip-hop home for me, and really what I looked like is, second up today, we're talking about Nancy Guthrie still, day 48, I think it is. And just distressing that we still don't know where she is. They supposedly have no leads. And now Sheriff Nanos, who told us from the beginning that the public had no reason to worry without any basis, apparently, is now telling NBC News that everybody should keep their wits about them and that this perpetrator could strike again, which is terrifying. And those poor people in that community, plus I think everybody in the U.S. is thinking about this. Anybody who's, knows about this crime is concerned, because if you can just snatch an elderly lady out of her bed and there's no evidence of it, what are we doing with all of our technology? So there was an FBI agent that was on Brian Enton. Brian Enton is a reporter that's been out there for a long time. He's finally come home to Florida, but he was out there for a long time, still covering it. He went over with her different things that you can do to keep yourself safe. So cameras everywhere. I think that is what we've all learned. And then you obviously have to have the subscription to the cloud to back it up so that it doesn't get recorded over. If something happens, you can go back in time and see, oh, wait, there was somebody. My camera was triggered last night. There was somebody in my driveway. I don't know who that is. And that you have to have sufficient cameras that will point and zoom in on things. It can't just be a wide angle lens, according to this FBI agent. It has to be something that will, if a car pulls in your driveway, for example, it will zoom in on the license plate or do a close-up of the person in the car. I have increased all of my security here. I'm not going to get into specifics of what that is, but that this is her advice on what to do with cameras, just so you know what's going on at your own house, and that you have to have an iPad or something else that if something is triggered on the app for your cameras, that you look at it, and if there's anything of concern, you call the police. You don't go outside, you don't open the door, because I think our first reaction is, oh, let's open the door. Somebody might need help, especially if it's in the middle of the night and you're half asleep. So that seems like very basic advice, but good advice. And obviously there's an expense to that, but I think everybody prefer to spend that money than to have something horrible happen if you're able to. Locking all your doors seems very basic. I know people that don't lock their doors based on where they live, and they think, I'm not going to be a victim. I know everybody here. It's very safe, but every night we go through all the doors. I had an instance several years ago where I wasn't home. My neighbor got called by my security company because my alarm went off based on a faulty window sensor. And the police came and they actually went in the house because we had left a door open. So they thought somebody had gotten in the house. It was a whole thing. We had the body cam from the police officer going in the house. So lesson learned that you really have to pay attention and check all the doors. You can't assume everybody else has locked the door. If you have a cleaning person or a contractor or another family member, they might have gone out that door. And so you have to go and do the rounds every night. Make sure you lock the door. She said, especially lock bathroom windows. People sometimes open the bathroom windows and think that they're so small. They think that they're so small that nobody could possibly fit in there. She said that's false, that people can slide through there, and that's a frequent point of access. The other thing is, when you come into your house, be aware of what's going on around you. Just like if you were getting into your car in a parking lot, be aware. Don't be scrolling on your phone. Don't be talking on your phone. Don't sit in your car, even if you've locked the door of the car, scrolling on your phone. When you pull into your garage, don't sit in your car scrolling on your phone, because you might be unaware. There might be somebody who's followed you, and you would be possibly a victim for that person because you weren't paying attention. I think that's really good advice. I really wouldn't think about that necessarily, but it totally makes sense. Then if you have anybody older that has home health care aides, obviously you get them from a reputable company, that they do background checks, and that you have somebody yourself or neighbors or friends or somebody else stop over unannounced frequently, that you might have cameras inside the house recording what's going on, but stop by frequently, and so that they have no idea what the schedule is. Obviously, that is subject to whatever your work schedule is, depending on your situation. But I think that sounds like good advice, so that they really don't know when you might show up in the event something's going to happen. The other thing is, don't post things online. And people have always said that don't post vacation photos when you're on vacation, so robbers are going to know that you're away. Basic advice. And I think a lot of people follow that these days and don't post things till they're home. But I know, at least in the Nancy Guthrie case, she had posted something about, did anybody have advice on security systems or cameras on Facebook, I think. So you're basically advertising to anybody on Facebook that I don't have any security at my house currently, and I'm older and I live by myself potentially, which you could probably see from her profile that she lived alone. People post things on Nextdoor all the time. My elderly father, who lives in XYZ area, needs somebody to do this or that. He lives by himself and he can't get around. So I've seen people actually identify the area where this person lives. So if you are a perpetrator, you'd be able to see that guy is, or that woman has issues and mobility issues, and they're elderly, and I could probably break in there no problem. So those are all of her points of advice. I think that they seem like very good points for people to follow, and I have definitely instituted a lot of them. And it's a wake-up call to people. And I think this is an extreme circumstance, but I think everybody should be aware of it, especially if you have somebody living alone or elderly or really not of the ability to defend themselves. So that's her advice. I think that's all good advice. So everybody, lock all your doors, be aware of your surroundings, and get some good security cameras with recording backup. The other thing that's on my mind, number 3 today, would be dating shows. I think everybody, anybody who's ever watched The Bachelor or The Bachelorette has been disappointed because they rarely end up together. I think there's only a couple that have been successful and stayed together. And the new Bachelorette, it starts on Sunday, is Taylor Frankie Paul. And she is on the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives show. I am not a fan of that show. My daughters loved it, raved about it. I tried to watch an episode. It was insufferable. I had no interest in it. And it's not trying to sound snobby, but it just was not to my liking. I didn't find anything entertaining, funny, interesting about it. So I abandoned it. She came from that show. She has 3 kids, 2 by one guy and 1 by this current past boyfriend, most recent boyfriend. And so she's supposed to, her show is premiering this Sunday as The Bachelorette, which they filmed back in October, November, December. Well, come to find out, that before she left for filming, she had slept with this latest boyfriend named Dakota, who's the father of one of her children. And if that weren't bad enough, supposedly she also had an incident where she choked him within the last few days. Now, there's some argument as to when that actually happened. Some information says it was in the last couple of days, and he's filed a restraining order against her and trying to get custody of his child because of that. And some say it was a while ago, but it's been documented that 3 years ago she threw chairs at him, stools at him, and one almost hit one of her children. And the videos of that have been leaked by TMZ recently, and it's quite unnerving. And I think if this were a guy as the Bachelor, he would have been canceled already. That being said, ABC is probably going to be happy with all the attention because I think most people, that are coming to The Bachelorette, it might be because of this versus any of their prior interest in The Bachelorette. So it's sort of a dying franchise as far as I'm concerned. It used to be a must watch for my friends and me, and now it's not as interesting. So I am on the fence if I will watch it. I don't find her appealing at all. Anything about her is appealing. So I don't really want to give her the benefit of that. I know she has probably a lot of issues, and I don't know what's happened to cause her to act out this way, and I'm sure he has some fault in it too. But I don't really want to support somebody who's been acting like this. It seems crazy, and it seems crazy that ABC obviously knew about this, and they're the victim of it, playing the victim, like, oh, what should we do? Should we cancel it? Should we not cancel it? And I think that, as somebody pointed out, they're sort of restricted on who they bring on to these shows because they try to get somebody that's on one of their networks or sister or subsidiary networks versus taking somebody from another network, another reality type person. They could just get an average Mary Smith from anywhere in the United States to be on The Bachelorette, of course. But they made this choice knowing her background from 2023 and other things, thinking that would spice it up. We shall see. I might watch, not sure yet. The other dating show that I finished was Love is Blind, and they had the reunion. And there is one couple that got married. They stayed married, and they seem very, very happy. They're on the reunion. There's another couple that said no at the altar, but they're still together. And I really liked her, Bree, and then the guy was named Connor. And there was this other guy, Chris, that really liked her and he broke up with the girl that he was engaged to once he saw Bree and thought, I really want her. Was my first love in the pods, and I really want to be with her. And, Love is Blind. You don't see anybody until you make a commitment, and then you see them. So he made a commitment to this other girl who's a doctor, but then he said she doesn't work out enough, and he really came off as horrible. He somewhat apologized, and I think was very upset with how he showed on the Love is Blind show, and realized he looked really bad. He looked somewhat repentant, but everybody hated him so much he became very defensive, and they were just glaring at this guy. Meanwhile, Bree is with this guy, Connor, who's the nice guy, and they're together. So with the dating shows, it is continually disappointing that nobody stays together. It's quite remarkable that with Love is Blind that we had two couples stay together. One seems very happily married. One is still together. They seem very, very happy, according to them. On the other shows I've watched, the other dating shows, Love at First Sight, where you get paired up based on a minister and a psychologist, review different personalities, different people, match people up, and they get married on the spot, and then they live together and figure out if they will stay together. And at the end of the experiment, they decide if they're going to stay together. Last season, I think all the couples, 5 or 6, stayed together. But then by the reunion show, they had all broken up. So none of them had stayed together. And so I think the lesson is that these people that are going on these shows might be going on these shows because they've had so many issues in their lives that have made it more difficult for them to find the love of their life, as it were. Not that it's not difficult right now to do that with the dating scene, but perhaps that's what caused the issues, is that they had so many issues to begin with. So it just made it harder for them to actually cement the relationship on the dating show.
So my issue with these dating shows is that they generally don't end in success. So it's continually disappointing, but I, for some reason, keep watching them. So with the Love is Blind, they had the one couple that's married happily. Then they have the one couple that's married happily, and then they have one couple that's still together. Everybody else seems to hate each other. This one couple was a guy that everybody was from Ohio in this show, and he was a working class blue collar kind of guy. He reminded me of Tommy Boy from the Tommy Boy movie, if you remember that movie. And I think that was set in Ohio. And this guy looked like him, acted like him, lived like him. And the girl to whom he became engaged was quite attractive, voluptuous, and had a child already. She's a nurse, very successful, seemed flighty, ditzy, but once you learned more about her, it was quite impressive that she was a single mother, owned her own house, was raising this daughter. And then they had a terrible breakup, apparently, because she thought he didn't want to move to where she lived, but she wanted to stay where she lived because of the daughter in the school. It just seemed like they were never a match in my mind. And then they blew up spectacularly during whatever period of time. I guess it's a year since they were filming and got back together. So disappointing. I know that The Age of Attraction is another one that's out, where everybody goes to this resort of different ages. Nobody knows how old the other people are. Obviously, you can see that some people are older and some people are younger based on appearance, but that they pair up. And Maisie's been watching this. I've watched one episode, and they, hang out, do different activities. They went whitewater rafting, and they do all these activities. And then I guess once they pick their person, they go off and they live together. And that's about where the series is now. So I'm going to watch that. Maisie seems to be enjoying that. That's another one. And that seems like success is more possible because people have seen each other, gotten to know each other. Where is in Love is Blind, they don't see each other. And I think it's a little bit easier to either be less like yourself when you're behind a wall, because you don't have anybody looking at you determining if you're being truthful or not. So I think it's easier to make things up because you don't have to show your face. And think about all the lie detectors and people that can discern if somebody's telling the truth. It's based on appearances. So I think that's why Love is Blind has not been that successful, as well as the fact that people, I think, have issues ostensibly if they're going on these shows. And that you think, wow, they look really normal, these, whatever that is, but relatively normal. Why are they on the show? Why can't they find a date in real life? And then generally throughout the course of the season, you see different things that come out, whether they're hypersensitive to things, whether they are super paranoid about their significant other cheating on them, or looking at other women, or women looking at other men, whatever the circumstances, you start to think, okay, this is why they're on the show. And that's what ends up scuttling whatever relationship they might find on that show. The fourth thing that I have to talk about today is the current mystery I'm looking into. So this missing general, he's a retired Air Force Major General, William Neil McCaslin. I think he went by Neil, I believe. And he's been missing since February 27th of this year. He's been retired since 2022.
The most important part of his resume is that he was in charge of the department with the Air Force that was in charge of UFOs and unidentified objects. And he went missing 3 days after President Trump announced he was going to release all the files relating to Roswell, New Mexico, where people believe that they keep all the information or things that they found related to aliens. There's so many theories about all of this. I'm not going to get into that part of it, but it seems like a very coincidental timeline, and it's 3 days after the announcement that this person that is supposedly has the most knowledge in his own head about all of these matters. His security clearance was taken away back in 2022 when he retired, but they said that he has the most amount of knowledge as one person can in this area. So he vanished. He left behind his phone, wallet, and glasses. He's supposedly of sound mind. He went running frequently. He knew these trails in New Mexico and would not leave without a phone or his watch. Now it's said that the rumor is that he left with a revolver as well. And his wife came out, and I'm not sure what the context is, but she, I think, was irritated at all the conspiracy theories versus people actually trying to find him. I think they are trying to find him, but she came out and maybe was frustrated and said, well, maybe the aliens finally came and took him. I don't think that really helps the case, but supposedly the Air Force and the FBI are looking for him. They have not found any trace supposedly of him. They did find a sweatshirt on March 7th, about 1.25 miles from his house. Otherwise, they haven't found anything because he didn't have his phone or his watch or anything to track him. So that is continuing, and the mystery deepens, the conspiracy mysteries deepen, as well as they announced today that 9 months ago, a woman who worked with him closely on a lot of these projects was in LA, went on a hike, and has never been seen again. They searched for her, and this was 9 months ago that she went missing. No trace of her, no body has been found, nothing has been found of hers. So that seems a little coincidental if they work so closely together and she went missing as well. Unless they both happen to be irresponsible hikers at the same time. So this is a mystery that we are going to be watching closely. Supposedly, let's see. Now, also oddly enough, they report that he was of sound mind, but a silver alert was issued. So when I heard that, I thought a silver alert was issued for somebody who wandered off potentially with dementia. And they're saying a silver alert is an advisory for a missing person who is 50 or older and has an irreversible deterioration of intellectual faculties. The sheriff's office later clarified McCaslin's mental state at a press conference. They had issued a silver alert because McCaslin previously reported that he was experiencing a mental fog, but they don't believe that he was cognitively impaired at the time of his disappearance. So I'm not sure where the mental fog came from, but somebody had reported that he had said that. Other items missing from his residence, I guess he took his wallet, his revolver, and hiking boots. So I don't know. It seems highly suspicious and troubling. And if he's been out there that long, either he doesn't want to be found or something really bad has happened to him. The sweatshirt they found didn't have any blood, and they haven't found any other evidence of foul play. So we will stay tuned to see what happens with that. The last item is of interest are these I'm going to call them health scams that I see on Instagram. I get, as everybody does, Instagram profiles you and gives you different suggestions of things. And I see these patterns that develop with certain things. For a long time, it was protein. How can you get protein? I can get protein in my water. I can get protein in powder. I can get protein in a bar. And everything was about protein. Then it was about collagen, collagen for your skin, collagen for your bones. How are you getting collagen? In a powder, in bone broth. Then it went to cortisol. Is your cortisol too high? And a lot of people have had issues with cortisol, either caused by medications or other physical conditions they have. And there's different ways that cortisol creates problems for you, but one of them is it causes you to wake up in the night with your fight or flight mechanism initiated because your brain, and then your brain turns on and you can't sleep. And a lot of people think they need to lower their cortisol to help with sleep, which I certainly believe in. I take this supplement called AM Reset, and it is a bunch of herbal supplements. It does not have melatonin in it, but I find that I sleep perfectly, whereas before I would constantly wake up at 3 a.m. and start thinking about something. So it's helped me a lot. I know a lot of people do melatonin, magnesium, but this has a bunch of different herbal supplements in it, including ashwagandha and a few others. But I find it excellent. It's the first thing that's helped me sleep. But I've also noticed the trend for what I would say cockamamie things on the internet. They have something that I've seen called heart rate variability. And I'm thinking, why is heart rate variability an issue? Isn't your heart rate supposed to be variable for different circumstances? When you get up in the morning, when you're sleeping, it's very low. When you get up, it has to increase in order for you to do activities, to exercise, to make your breakfast, to drive, all the things we do when we're conscious and not asleep. Supposedly people who have low HRV or low heart rate variability often indicates stress, fatigue, or illness. A healthy heart is not a metronome. It naturally speeds up and slows down, creating variability. Normal HRV is highly individual, changing with age, gender, and health. HRV typically peaks around age 15 and declines throughout life. So we've got that going for us. 15 is your peak. Good God. And that the HRV levels vary widely as you age. Physical stress will show itself in a lower consistent HRV, persistent tiredness, reduced ability to recover from exercise or emotional stress. And causes of low HRV are aging, excessive physical exertion without adequate rest, lack of sleep, dehydration. So how to improve it? Improve your sleep, manage stress, moderate exercise, and good hydration. So those to me seem like just general health techniques versus actually thinking I have another condition that I have to monitor. But I see this all over Instagram, and there's an app you can get that you subscribe to. But basically I looked into it, and it just tells you to rest during different periods of the day, and that to go out in the morning and put your feet on the actual earth barefoot to connect with the earth and reset your heart rate. So basically they're saying that you should get an EKG if you have issues, but that's really going to bear itself out with other health issues. So my opinion at this point is this HRV on Instagram. So it seems like it's just another problem that they're making up so that they can sell solutions, because it seems like you're going to have other health issues that are going to make you get an EKG or other treatments versus just trying to make your heart rate variability higher. Very confusing. So heart rate variability is the variation in time between heartbeats. So the higher HRV means that rest and recovery, lower HRV means you're in a stress mode. And it can be useful for athletes to avoid overtraining or to show maybe you're getting sick, which is what I think all these Whoop or Apple Watches do, is that they basically tell you what your readiness score is versus saying today
that you have versus that today you have a specific diagnosed illness, and that you have to compare your numbers to your own numbers versus other people's numbers and get a baseline, and then over time see how it varies. And that hydration, sleep position all affect it. Caffeine, timing. It can't diagnose disease and it can't replace other clinical evaluations. So basically, the simple rule of thumb is that if your watch or other device tells you your HRV is low for several days, slow down and rest. If it's increased, maybe you can work out more. So it seems to be aligned with the Whoop and the Oura Ring, Apple Watch, and used correctly versus being a condition, as it were, that you can treat as a condition. You can treat the other things that it signals, like lack of sleep, lack of good nutrition, lack of rest, over exercising. I have an idea for something I want to push on Instagram. So I'll leave you with my idea for Instagram. I think it's a great marketing tool. I'm going to market something for SPS. I'm going to call it Sour Puss Syndrome. Now, obviously, people have different things going on in their lives and different baggage they're carrying, different burdens they're carrying, terrible things may be going on in their lives. But in general, I think there's a segment of the population that they're just sour pusses. They just do not want to find joy in anything. They're looking for a problem. They are not friendly to somebody they come across, even though it doesn't cost them anything to just give a smile, say hello. Again, a lot of people have things going on. I get it. But in general, some people are predisposed to what I call SPS. I'm not sure what the solution would be, but perhaps it would be an app that would snap you out of it. And maybe it's that the app secretly records you when you're doing things in public and replays it for you that night and gives you tips on how to be friendlier. Maybe how to smile if somebody says hello, good morning, without grunting. I'm just sort of thinking of how to market it, but I'm going to come up with some more ideas on that because I think it's a winner. I think a lot of people would say, that sounds like me. I'm going to have to look into it. That is it for today, and I will keep you updated on my hip hop class investigation, and hope you have a good night.